Hello everyone, today we're going to talk a bit more about the piano roll. I briefly touched on a few things last time, but I'm going to go more in depth. So as you can see here, I've got a nice chord here. Now I'm going to show you everything you need to know about the piano roll to really get you started with making a proper song. So first of all, we're going to go up here, we're going to look at a bunch of these tools here. So as you can see, we used the draw tool in the last video to create notes, as is. We've also got a button here called the mono paint tool. Basically what it does is it allows us to create notes. So here, if I just click and drag, it lets me make as many notes as I want. Say I wanted to maybe shorten that down. Just click on that again. There you go, that's the mono paint tool. That's a cool tool. But there's actually another one which I prefer called the poly paint tool. Now this one will only make notes in length to each block. So I'm going to click and drag, and as you can see, it makes notes in each block, and that's kind of helpful when you're creating like little plucky chords, like dead mouse chords or something like that. But yeah, that's a cool tool. You got the delete tool, but just like right clicking on these things, or using the draw tool and right clicking, that basically does it for us anyway. So that's kind of pointless. The mute tool, you just click on that, it mutes that sound. Click on it again, and it'll unmute it. And we also have the slice tool, and this allows us to cut these notes into segments. So if I click and drag, it cuts that up. I can also drag it diagonally to make really interesting cuts. But yeah, that's a pretty cool tool. That's kind of important, but it's kind of lazy. If you're in a rush, then it's good. And the select tool, which you click and drag, it allows you to select all these things, drag them up, drag them down, drag them along, change the length, whatever. Or you can, delete them or cut, as I like to do. Paste, Control V, that works. So that's cool. Those are the cool little tools there. Next, I'm going to move on to this button here called Snap to Grid. Now, this Snap to Grid button allows us to define how big these little cubes are. So at the moment in time, I've set it to half step. If I set it to cell, then it goes a bit longer, as you can see. There we go. But if I change that to line, or rather actually if I change that to like third step, I change it down again, allows me to position it more specifically, or quarter step, it's all different, all plays very important parts. So that's that, and then I'm going to move on to this little toolbar here, and this allows us to look at a bunch of different tools. Now there's a few tools here which are useful, and some that I would say are not. So for instance, we have the quick chop tool. So say I'm in a rush and I just want to click that, and then I'll chop everything up into those little beats. However, let's say that I wanted to be a bit more specific with the chop. I can click the chop tool, and I can decide how many I want to chop that into, or none at all. So that's pretty cool. Let's change that back. And lastly, another cool tool we have, I would say, is the Strum Tool is pretty cool. So let's say I've got this sound here. Oh, they've changed this quite a bit. So I've got this tool here. This basically make it sound like a guitar. So you choose your start point, or the strength of your start point. Let's say there, a little bit of tension. Same with the end, and click accept. That should. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I don't know why I did that. It usually works no problem. That's very interesting. Maybe I have to select it and do it. Strum, accept. Never mind then. Okay, well, I've used that tool a few times, but it's obviously changed a little bit since I last used it. No worries. The Arpeggiate Tool allows you to create arpeggios. This is still strummer. I don't know why it's showing me strummer when I just clicked arpeggiate. There we go. And you can click how many octaves you want it to go up. And you can also say the pattern you want to put it to flip or alternate, and the different time that you want it on, and if you want to have like a gate in it, a gating effect, or block or chord or whatever. So that's cool as well. And there's another bonus tool. So if you click on this little button here, this has all these different things here. So let's say you want to create quick chords. So I want to create a minor 7th chord. By selecting that and by clicking, automatically creates a minor 7th. Pretty cool chord. But yeah, I'm just going to go back on and deselect. None. Okay, cool. Also, if you go down here, you can also see a little thing here called helpers, and it has this button here called ghost channels. Now usually this is deactivated, but if you click on it, it'll activate it, and I'll show you what it does. So I'm going to turn it off for the time being just to demonstrate. I'm going to close this window. Don't worry, it's not gone, your progress is saved. I'm going to right click and I'm going to insert another instance of, or actually I'm just going to clone it, it's probably easier doing that. I'm going to create a bunch of chords, but you know, I would like to make the same chords or close to the same chords, but you know, instead of me going back and double checking everything that I've done, I can click this little button right here. It says helpers, ghost chord, or ghost channel, and then if I click on FL keys 2, there they are. So yeah, that's a pretty cool little tool. Okay, lastly, I am going to talk a little bit about this bar down here. So as you can see, there's a green line here. Now this controls something called the velocity, which basically means how hard someone is hitting on these notes. Just like any real piano, you have velocity effects based on how hard you press on the key. So the way it's setting just now, we're going to say this is a 40. So we'll play. If I pull this down, it's going to make it more like a piano. If I push this up, it's going to make it more like a 40-40. There you go, cool. Right click and if I click on note pan, I can pan these notes a certain way, so I can click and select and or go to left. There you go. But I can also pan these things individually. So let's say I want to pan this one down here. I want to pan this one right there. And that's cool. You can do the same with velocity as well, as you can specifically change the velocity of certain notes and keep the others the same. So there you go. There's also note release and note fine pitch. These things, not as important. This is more complicated. I'll go into that at a later time, but yeah. You can also have the channel panning, which is in direct control with this knob here. So if I click here, or rather, it's in control of this knob here. If I right click, drag down, basically while this note plays, you're going to see it do that. But I don't think this is really necessary unless you really want a specific sound to play. Otherwise, just use the panning and the velocity for the volume there. It's also channel pitch, but I don't believe it's going to work with FL keys this way, but I'll check. Oh, it does. Well, there you go. Well, I've learned something new today. Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's all the important parts about the piano roll. So, I guess next tutorial we'll talk more about a few of the more interesting features, such as the mixer. Until then.